You're listening to the official Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
From the ponds to the pros, it's time for Beyond the Pond on the Fan. Here are your hosts, Pat Micheletti and Kevin Fallness.
Let's talk hockey!
Well, I'm here, big announcer guy. I don't see Pat Micheletti anywhere. I see Zach Halverson. I see Brett Blakemore. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning, Kev.
Good to see you both. But no Pat Micheletti. I thought this was his show. Shouldn't he be here?
I mean,
he's got liners after him.
You can feel the lack of Pat in this building right now.
This is what's so great about this. He's dying to jump and tell me, I'm in Vegas, but I'm not going to punch him up yet. I'm going to just let him sit there and stew. Hello, Patrick. Good morning, and welcome to Beyond the Pond, my friend. How is sunny Las Vegas?
Stand by. Hang on.
Oh, no. Now he's going to stick it to me. He's going backwards on it.
Uh-oh.
Did I press the wrong button? There he is. Hi, Patrick. Well, we can just talk amongst ourselves. There he is.
I am not there, but you know what I've been doing?
The Frozen Four? Know? You've been doing the Frozen Four on radio.
Yes, but I've been looking for Halvey in Vegas because isn't this his town?
I wanted to go, Pat. When they first announced it, back in 21, I had this weekend circled on my calendar, but the flights, man, the North Dakota fans, they just loaded up as soon as they could, and everything was like $1,000, and I'm not exaggerating, $1,000 to fly down there, and unfortunately, I don't have Pat Micheletti money, so I couldn't find my way down there. It sucks.
I don't have Pat Micheletti money either. Thank God I didn't have to pay for it, but yes, you're 100% correct because, I just was bored and looking at flights. And, I mean, ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you one thing, Halvey. I mean, it is, I should say, fellas.
Yeah.
The North Dakota fans, I mean, it was a sea of green out here. I mean, they travel like nobody I've seen in college hockey, which is great. Unfortunately, their team lost, but they were everywhere, and they're everywhere in this hotel. And, they get their hearts broken, but someone's got to lose. But boy, they have a good time, and they travel.
From what I understand, by all accounts, yourself included, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada, that's the destination for the Frozen Four. You can go anywhere else you want, and there's great places all along the map. But it seems like this is the perfect spot for this tournament.
No disrespect to any of the other cities, but I would rotate it between Tampa and Vegas and stop. I mean, because, a tournament like this, and you guys know, you want to go to a warm weather destination because you want to do other things other than just go watch hockey. And both those cities have plenty of things to do, and I mean it's a great location, and the hotel, which is a massive place, is right across the street from the T-Mobile Arena, and so it's a really good vibe for everybody, and you get a sold out arena, and for sure, I'm on board with that. Halvey, you got to get that done.
I will begin working on it right away because I'll tell you, the FOMO, the pictures, the reviews from everybody, all the folks I do know down there, including yourself, Pat, it just seems that, I think there's been talk of a rotation, including those two cities you mentioned, and Boston and St. Paul. But you're saying even leave Boston and St. Paul out of it, just keep it between Tampa and Vegas?
Yeah. I mean, mean, well, look at the weather in Minnesota. Look at the weather in Boston now. To me, if I'm a fan and I'm going to spend all that money, I would rather go to a warm spot and let people enjoy themselves outside. And the fan fest they had outside was terrific. In fact, yesterday, guys, and you're probably a Bruno Mars guy, Halvey.
Of course. But
they had he had a little concert outside the venue yesterday, and so I mean, it was a lot of fun for a lot of people.
This is the conglomeration that we need to put into place, because Halvey's basically the mayor of Las Vegas. You're the upcoming commissioner of college hockey. You two put your heads together and make this happen.
We can get that done, I think, Halvey. Can't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday at the Hobie Baker Award ceremony, everybody who's anybody is there, coaches and blah, blah, blah. And we were just, talking about the portal and all this, the money being thrown around and this, that, and the other thing. And this is probably off topic here, but, I really think, I really hope that college hockey, college sports in general, guys, gets a little more under control.
Amen.
Because I think it's out of control now with the player movement and how many times guys are switching schools and some of the money that's being thrown around and some of the poaching that's being thrown around. It doesn't it doesn't feel right about college athletics. And I know we're in a new era, but I just think a little bit more regulation would be really helpful to our sport.
For the listeners out there, of course, this is the voice of Pat Micheletti, who needs no introduction. But for the listeners out there that don't know, what are you doing in Vegas? Who are you working for? Who are you working with to bring us all the Frozen Four action there from Las Vegas?
Nobody cares, but I am. I'm working with Westwood One, so I'll be doing the championship game today, which I think. Halvey, you would know that. Is it going to be on the fan today?
Well,
I believe so.
If Fallness keeps the post game relatively short, after
the answer is no.
So
the answer is flat out no.
I would hope for double overtime again. If you could get that, then we might be able to carry some of it.
Yeah. So we've established that. Thank you, Kevin. And so now I'll be working with National Radio Westwood One with Brian Tripp, who is the play-by-play person for Penn State. And so I'm looking forward to a game. Should be a good game today, I think.
The Wild, of course, start at 3:45 from Nashville. The national championship game from Westwood One starts about 4:30 from T-Mobile Arena. DU against Wisconsin. So whenever the post game ends, if it ever ends, you can hear Pat Micheletti on the call, and hopefully, like Halvey says, it goes to double overtime. That's the championship game coming up later on today at T-Mobile Arena. You had two pretty wonderful games there on Thursday as well. I thought both of them were fantastic. The second one, I didn't get a chance to watch it, puck drop to puck stop, but I certainly got to watch the double overtime once the Wild and Stars were done, and it was fantastic. Michigan outshot them like 8-1 at one point, but of course DU gets the only shot that matters, the one that gets past them in overtime, and they advance to the title game once again.
Yeah, in the third period, there was a stretch for 17 minutes where Denver did not have a shot on goal, yet they tied the game. And so, it's just that Denver aura that is so prevalent in these Frozen Fours. And then they one of the teams was going to get the right opportunity to score in overtime, double overtime. And, a kid who had one goal. Now, granted, he's a stay-at-home defenseman for Denver, but he got the puck in the right spot and let it go and was able to beat Ivan Kovic from Denver or from Michigan, and they get the win. And yeah, I mean, did Michigan dominate the game at times? For sure, but it doesn't matter. And And the goaltender for Denver, Johnny Hicks, was fabulous, and he is yet to lose a game, Kevin.
Yeah,
He is
49
yet
saves.
to lose a game, and took over the starting role at the end of January, where they had a really not so good January for them, and they made the switch, and from that point on, he hasn't lost.
And how about the other game? We had Mike Hastings on last week, and say what you will, I know there's probably not a lot of love for him down there in Mankato, but I don't care what anyone says. I really do enjoy talking to Mike Hastings every chance I get the opportunity,
Yep.
and what he's done for that program, and now to see them in the title game, really just after 3 years of taking over the Wisconsin Badgers and righting that ship. Not easy to root for Wisconsin, really easy to root for Mike Hastings.
Well, here's the deal on that game. North Dakota was a little off. I thought they would be the favorite going into the game. I thought they're back end pretty good, and they had some dynamic forwards, but they weren't able to get going, and I think they got a little bit frustrated. And get this, guys. I mean, this will blow you away. The penalty kill for Wisconsin throughout the season was number 62 out of 63 teams. And so we always talk about specialty teams being the difference. Well, in that game, Wisconsin killed off a 5-on-3 and for 2 minutes. There's a penalty called, and then there's another one called directly right off the face-off. So they're down 2 men, they're up a goal, and they kill it off. And they ended up killing off all 5 penalties in that game, and that was the difference. And I don't know what Mike Hastings did to that penalty kill unit when they had all that time off before the Frozen Four. But they were absolutely lights out, and that was really the difference in the game. And so, I thought he did just a masterful job of coaching in that win.
Unbelievable. Denver looking for their 11th national title. The Badgers looking for their 7th. Of course.
Yeah, you know what I'm calling this game, Kevin?
What?
Guess. Guess what I'm
Better dead than red.
No,
I don't know.
The 7-11 game.
Okay.
Get it?
Yes, I do, because either the Badgers are going to get their 7th.
I'm looking for a sponsorship for it.
All right. Well, we'll have to get to work on that. Maybe Lil B's listening. She can start hammering the phone lines as we speak. So I know you don't like to pick the winners in games that you're calling, but I've been saying it all along. I have a hard time picking against DU with David Carl and especially their recent run of success. If I were in Vegas and I were a betting man, which I'm not, and I won't be, I would pick DU and I would pick David Carl. How about you, Halvey? What do you got with the DU and Wisconsin?
I'm definitely leaning the Badgers. I think I also think it kind of played into their hands on Thursday with not only they had the early game, so they have more rest there, but then they also don't have the double overtime as well. I know you get a day buffer, and I know these are great athletes and all that, but I think in a single game like this, I definitely think I'm definitely leaning towards the Badgers, though I understand why you'd go DU. But, Pat, I want to know just real quick, obviously the Big Ten, you can't really call them underdogs. They have a lot of money. They have had a lot of success, but they've really avoided that national title. What would a Wisconsin win mean for the Big Ten as a whole, who I'd imagine is very thirsty to finally break through and get that national championship?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that one is more for the fan bases than it is for anybody else. And rightly so. The bragging rights for the Frozen Four is the NCHC. The Big Ten has yet to win a game or a Frozen Four, and since the inception of the Big Ten Conference, and so slice it, dice it any way you want. They've yet to do it, and so I think for the fan base, I think they can say, okay, finally this is over, and we're a good league, we're blah blah blah, all the social media stuff. So I think from that perspective, I think that would be good for the Big Ten, but these games are hard to win, and somehow, the teams that have won it from the NCHC, which have been Minnesota, Duluth, and Denver, with their staffs and the way they construct and the way they build their teams and the way they set them up to win one game series, right now they're the king. And so it'll be I don't think Wisconsin is thinking about any of that today. They just want to win the game for Wisconsin. So, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, like you say, Scotty looking for their 7th national title, but first since 2006. Brett, I'd ask you who you're going to take, but I already know the answer to that. Because anything, exactly.
Yes.
Even the song. I feel the need to be quiet during the state of hockey anthem. That one I don't feel the same need to pledge allegiance to the Badgers fight song. We'll get back to more of the national championship game again, of course, Patrick. You're going to join us again at the 11 o'clock hour. There's also a ton of Gopher news. They filled out that coaching staff. The transfer portal apparently is filling up with Gophers. They've also got a couple of guys that have said they're coming back. So some good news, some not so good news. We'll get into all that in the next hour.
One quick thing, Kevin.
Yeah.
Before we go to break, I saw Brett's brother last night. Had a long talk with him, and he wouldn't recognize him. Brett is going to have to get a full beard that goes down. Oh man, halfway down to his chest.
Oh boy!
Wow.
Good luck with that.
I'm like, at first I looked at him and I said,
top.
Brett, what are you doing here?
And where'd you get that beard? Well, good.
And where'd you get that beard?
Before we do go to break, because I know Brett Blakemore's Breakaways will have a lot of Minnesota Wild banter, National Hockey League, so on and so forth. I know you were busy on Thursday night, but after the fact, how were you? What were your thoughts on the 5-4 loss to the Dallas Stars? Wild blow a 3-1 and 4-3 advantage, end up losing at American Airlines Center, and with it probably say goodbye to home ice advantage.
I really wanted to watch the game, but obviously I was at, the Frozen Four. That was their opportunity to get home ice. You and I have differing thoughts about home ice advantage. And I agree with you, having home ice advantage is better than having to go on the road. That being said, there's a lot of pressure in the first two games for the home team, and so if you can steal that and then regain that home ice advantage, I think it's obviously better for you. But that being said, you'd certainly, if it does go to 7 games, you'd certainly rather have that game at home than on the road. So. We know that they're going to be playing each other. We know it's going to be a battle. And so that's what we're left with.
I'm going to steal some of Brett's thunder because I know this is coming in Brett Blakemore's Breakaways, but I'm guessing you still have your flag planted at center ice. You want to see Jesper Wallstedt as the game 1 starter?
Well, well, here's the deal. I just think that both of them are going to play. I don't, are either of them, putting up Vezina numbers as of late? No. So I think it may come down to a field situation for John Hines and staff about, tonight we're going to go with this guy. At one point, obviously, everyone thought it's Gus's net and he's going to make, and play all the games and be that guy. And I think there's some question marks. So I really do, Kevin. I really think both are going to play. And then, maybe whoever gets hot in game 1, game 2, whatever game it is, will get, a little bit more time. So we'll just have to see. But again, it goes back to if there's one concern going into the playoffs, it'd be in the net.
Okay, there you go. All right, Pat Micheletti, the voice of Pat Micheletti from Vegas, T-Mobile Arena. We'll break, and then he's going to stick with us for another 10, 15 minutes as we do Brett Blakemore's Breakaways. Fun show coming your way. We will continue talking college hockey from now until the end at about 12 o'clock noon, but we also will get in some Wild banter as well. We're going to Nashville. Wild have just 3 games left to go in the regular season, just 2 games left in the regular season, the final road trip of the regular season, including this afternoon in Nashville. Pregame at 3:45. Puck drops just after 4 o'clock. Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed, all the play-by-play action from Bridgestone Arena. We'll check in with Joe O'Donnell about 10:35. 11:35, we're going to check in with Wild assistant coach Jason King, get an update on the lineup situation, how the Wild are feeling coming off that narrow loss to the Stars on Thursday in Dallas, and how they're approaching the final 3 games of the regular season. All that and more coming your way as we continue on Beyond the Pond.
This is Kevin Gorg, and I'll give you hundreds of reasons to listen to Micheletti.
Whoa.
Good, hundreds. It's Beyond the Pond on the...
Before we get to the breakaways, I got this text in at the 701 area code. I like what Pat is saying. Well, that's a first. How about Nashville to go along with Vegas and Tampa? That would be a pretty sweet rotation. What do you think about that, Pat, Halvey, Brett? Adding Nashville into the mix, Vegas and Tampa for the Frozen Four.
I still think there should be like a wild card spot in that rotation where it does go to different places. I don't think Nashville would be a good rotational fit that happens every 3 years or 4 years or even 5 years, but I think a Frozen Four in Nashville would be fun. The question is who hosts it, because there's really no. But then again, North Dakota's hosting the one in Vegas this year, so I guess North Dakota can host Nash Vegas as well. You
like that, Patrick? Smashville?
I'm good. I'm good with the two. I do like Calvy's idea of having a wild card. You have to give these cities time to prepare for something like that, and they have to bid. And I'm really good with Tampa and Vegas. I think they're both the ideal locations, and I would just leave it right there, guys. I really would.
The commissioner of college hockey has spoken.
From my perspective, because we go through we're up in Minnesota, and it gets a little frigid, and it's nice to get away. It was 90 degrees when I landed on Thursday.
Amazing.
90.
It's overcast and raining here. So enjoy the weather while it lasts, because you'll be back in this stuff here in a short amount of time. That, of course, the voice of the future commissioner of college hockey. Now it's time to hear from the voice of Brett Blakemore and his breakaways.
It's time for Brett Blakemore's Breakaway.
Here's a break. Kaprizov in alone. Nobody going to catch him. Kaprizov score!
And now, Blakemore's Breakaway.
Again, great intro.
Yep.
From the two of you.
Well done, Halvey.
Yeah, Halvey.
Very nice job.
Still one of my favorites.
All right, what do you got for us?
We'll go here. Are you familiar with a website called moneypuck.com?
Yep.
Are you familiar with a service they provide called the Deserve to Win-O-Meter?
Okay, yes.
So this is what it does is it takes all the scoring chances and opportunities that were generated from the teams and basically says, how often would you have won that game out of, say, 1,000 games with those chances you created? According to them, the Wild in Dallas will win that game generating those amount of chances 73% of the time, which goes to show the amount of weird bounces and weird turnovers, and more on that later. But I don't think the Wild played all that bad of a game. Did they blow leads? Yes. Were there problems in the defensive zone? Yes. But I still think it wasn't doom and gloom. We can't compete with them. It's all over, Johnny. We may as well go back to the golf course. I don't think it was that.
No, from my perspective, these are two very evenly matched teams. There's not a lot separating them up front on the blue line. I guess the one variable is going to be in goal, and you need Philip Gustafsson, if he's the guy between the pipes, to play better than he did Thursday. There were some weird bounces in that game. There's no doubt about that. One went off Rantanen's skate. I still don't know why that one counted. There was another one that bounced in off a defenseman. So it's hard to point the finger directly at him, but he let in 5 goals on 20 shots. That's not good enough in the playoffs, and hopefully he got it out of his system. To me, I mean, they led 3-1 at one point. They were playing extremely well, and they put 4 behind Jake Ottinger. That's not going to happen every night either. So there's plenty of reason to be optimistic about that game. It's just disappointing how it ended and how it unfolded.
Halvey?
Yeah, I mean, for some reason I saw people like using the fact that they scored 3 power play goals as a negative, and I'm like, that's a good thing that the power play is clicking. And we talk every year about how important special teams are in the postseason. And I concur. That was not a doom and gloom. Certainly not fun to lose. That sucked, and it would have been nice to hang on. But there were some very isolated incidents in that game that turned that game around. That gave the win to Dallas. That if they are a little bit more careful in their own zone, don't turn the puck over, cover Jason Robertson, then things will change, and that would have been, as you mentioned, I thought even before looking at Money Puck, I thought they would have won that game 7-8 times out of 10. It just didn't go their way, but the good news is we have a 7-game series coming up, so if they have another one of those that doesn't go their way, that's fine. I just want to continue to see that effort, and I just got a special mention that we have to point out. Matt Boldy is playing out of his mind right now. He is so much fun to watch. He's working his butt off, and he has found his game at the right possible time, and I could not be excited for 7 or 8 days from now.
Patrick, Kaprizov scored 2 goals in that game, 44th and 45th of the year. Both were set up by Boldy and Zuccarello on the power play. That's a good sign.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. One for Halvey and one for you.
Okay.
Kevin, had the goal that went off Rantanen.
Yeah.
Let's switch that and say the goal went off of Kaprizov.
Yeah.
Would that have been a good goal or not?
It sure seemed to me like he redirected it with his skate. That's all I'm saying. I don't care if it was Kirill Kaprizov, Gump Worsley, or Mikko Rantanen. It felt like that was. It felt like it was a redirection. Like it was it a kicking motion? No, but it just felt like a weird.
Then it's a goal.
Okay, well, it just felt like he moved his skate and redirected it into the goal.
It's a very inconsistent rule, in my opinion, because the idea of the kicking rule is that you're intentionally, using your skate to put the puck in the net. And if you're pivoting your skate to get the right angle for it to bounce off and go into the net, you are intentionally using your skate to put the puck in the net. Now, by rule, that's still a goal. You can do that. It's purely the kicking motion. But I don't understand the inconsistency of what is the difference between pivoting your skate and putting it in the right spot and using that to score a goal and then kicking it to score a goal. I think it's the same thing, and I think it's a very dumb rule. But by rule, that was definitely a goal.
Well, my feelings are on it. My feelings are on it is that people love to see goals scored. Why do we put ourselves in a position to make stupid rules? I for one think any way you can score is fine. I don't care. I don't like any of the rules. I don't care if it's a high stick. I don't. We have these rules that lead to low scoring games, and it's hard enough to score with the way that these teams structure their defense now.
Can I pick it up and throw it into the net?
What's that?
Can I pick it up and throw it into the net with my glove?
I don't care.
Maybe
it's
drop kick.
Score.
Yeah, drop kick.
It's really hard to score. Okay, I'll move on. Halvey. Do you think that there should be conversation about Matt Boldy for the Hart Trophy? Because I do.
Yeah. I mean, he just is.
Is anyone playing any better than him right now?
No, because he's obviously, we know the skill that he has. We know that he can put the puck in the net. We know we saw him dish it really beautifully the other night. But then I would argue that the best part of his game lately has just been there's no such thing as a 50-50 puck for Matt Boldy now. It's like a 90-10, if that. He wins every single battle. He is absolutely, in my opinion, the most important player on this team right now to the Wild. And, yeah, I think absolutely the conversation should be had.
And that's why, guys, the team, he went through a little drought where he wasn't scoring, and at the same time, Kaprizov was. So, they lost a few games. And that's why I really like the way that this team is built going into the playoffs, because, those guys are going to drive the offense, right? I mean, we can't go into the playoffs thinking, boy, we picked up McCarron and Nick Foligno, and they're not scoring. Well, you didn't really get them to be juggernauts on the offensive side of the puck. What you got them for is to make it difficult for the other teams to play. And they play hard, and they play big, and they make it difficult for other teams. And then you have your offensive drivers and your Zuccarellos, Boldies, I don't have to name the names. And so that's why I like how they're built for the playoffs, especially when 97 and Boldy are going.
Yeah, but to that point, they are getting a ton of depth scoring. Tarasenko, Hartman, to name a couple.
Yeah,
And then additions from the blue line, including Faber, now up to 15 goals this season. It's been outstanding. I don't want to take away from your time, Brett, so squeeze in one more, we will try to get back to breakaways as the show rolls along.
You mentioned something, Kev, and I knew Pat would go here as well, that Gus gave up 5 goals, and you hope he got it out of his system. I'm here to tell you, at least in this game, I think that's too easy of an out. I think defensively, in our own zone, the Wild were putrid at times. I mean, 2 of the goals came off of, the skate one is unfortunate, but then, Blackwell gets to walk in for free, basically, around Faber. The first goal is a turnover behind Gus. He had no idea where it was, and just an easy free goal. There was another turnover by Petrie and McCarron combined behind the net, which led to a goal.
A game winner. That was the Robertson goal.
So, to me, I don't look at Gus as prime suspect 1, 2, or 3 in this game, because I didn't think almost any of the goals, maybe the Blackwell one where he had a shot, but at least 4 of them he had no chance at. So I don't see him in the police lineup at all for this game.
I don't know that I would say he had no chance on any of the 4 goals, but I can see what you're saying. That the turnover behind the net was one.
Which one?
The one that led to the Jason Robertson goal, where Petrie turns it over, McCarron can't wrangle it in, ends up on the stick of Robertson, and 2 seconds later it's back behind Gustafsson. It proves to be the eventual game winner midway through that third period. There's plenty to shore up here, but what I'm saying, when I look at the Stars, when I look at the Wild, I think they're on a pretty even playing field going into game 1 of this best-of-7 series. Even though it's starting in Dallas, they're going to drop the puck probably a week from today. At this time, we'll be doing the pregame into a Wild and Stars game 1. They're in Dallas. I don't think there's a lot separating these two teams. I really don't. I think it's going to be even. I think it's going to be long, and I think it's going to go every bit of 7 games.
Let me ask you this, guys, because I didn't watch the game. Do you think it was a playoff atmosphere type game?
Yes.
Meaning, did both teams play it like it was a playoff game, or were there subtleties to the game?
I think they were trying to send a message and set the tone. And, the Wild's big boys were certainly doing their typical stuff, which was awesome to see, whether it be the 2 Folignos, whether it be McCarron. Everyone was in on the action. At the end of the game, all 10 guys that were on the ice were going crazy, including Kaprizov. Boldy had enough of the guy that he got tangled up with. At one point, Hughes and Rantanen are cuddling on the ice as well. I thought it definitely had some playoff intensity. I don't think it had the X's and O's of a typical playoff game.
Yeah, I think the only difference between this game and a playoff game was there's so much on the line in a playoff game that if you are down a goal, late in the third period, you're probably not going to get into a wrestling match or a line brawl like they did. So it had the playoff atmosphere without the consequences of a playoff game, which led to a little bit more physicality and a little bit more, like I said, I mean, it was not fighting. They were hugging each other and rolling around on the ice. It was full blown wrestling out there.
Fun to watch. It's a nice appetizer, I think, as Nick Foligno says, a nice appetizer going into that playoff series, which will start in probably a week from today. Wild and Stars, a best-of-7 series.
What time will that start, like 10:30 at night?
Most likely. I haven't seen start times yet. I'm sure that's still to be determined, but I can't imagine. I think it's going to be closer to midnight than it'll be to noon. I'll just give you that assumption. Let's do this. Patrick, we'll say goodbye to you for now. We'll join you again in about 20, 25 minutes, and I definitely want to get into the Gopher conversation. Everyone wants your opinion on the state of that program. So we'll get back to you then. Why don't you take a break and go get yourself a coffee or something?
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
There he is, Pat Micheletti from Las Vegas, calling the Frozen Four action coming up later on today. You'll hear it after the Wild postgame show. Right here on FM 100.3 The Fan. When we continue, though, we're going to join the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Wild, Joe O'Donnell. He's at Bridgestone Arena, and he'll give us a preview of today's third-to-last game of the regular season. Wild and Predators coming up. Joe O'Donnell is next on The Fan.
Stars now 4 points ahead of Minnesota for home ice in round one with 3 games to go. And that pretty much all but does it as far as where game one will be when these two teams get together in about a week and a half. 5-4 the final. Dallas rallies in the third as Minnesota saddled with a tough regulation loss here at American Airlines Center.
A very disappointed Joe O'Donnell following the 5-4 loss in Dallas on Thursday night. Joe O'Donnell will try to pick those spirits up today as the Wild face off against the Predators. Pregame at 3:45. Puck drops just after 4 o'clock. Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed, all the play-by-play action. We now go to Bridgestone Arena or somewhere in that vicinity and check in with the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Wild. Joe, that's Zach Halverson, Brett Blakemore, myself. Welcome to Beyond the Pond. How is life in Smashville today?
What an honor it is to be on with this great trio of hockey minds. Kevin, I'm doing great, buddy. Beautiful weather in Nashville yesterday. Sun was shining. I know I understand Brett was telling me before I jumped on it. It's a little gloomy in Minnesota today weather-wise. But a nice day here yesterday, and looking forward to today's game. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere. Predators are playing for a lot still. I mean, their season is very much in the balance with their last 3 games, and they're all on home ice. And starting today, they'll play a Minnesota team that I think will be looking to bounce back. We could see a little bit of a different-looking lineup for the Wild. That's still to be determined, but certainly should be a fun game.
Well, we can certainly talk about today and the potential lineup tweaks for John Hines and company. Take us back to Thursday, though. At one point, the Wild led the Stars 3-1. They led them 4-3 late in the second, and, of course, it goes away in the third. What were your takeaways from a pretty important game that unfortunately slipped through the Wild's fingers?
Yeah, it's there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I didn't think Philip Gustafson played a great game, and I don't think there's any other way to spin it. I'm assuming he would feel the same way, but I didn't talk to Gus. I'm not sure if he addressed the media after the game or not. But you only give up 20 shots on goal in that game. Your power play scores 3 times. For the most part, I thought the Wild's top players played a good game up and down the lineup, and you still get saddled with a regulation loss. It's like a little bit stunning, a little bit like maybe in some ways humbling, the fact that you played a pretty good game, you're on the road, they lose one of their best defensemen, Amiro Heiskanen, for a large chunk of the game, and yet you still don't find a way to at least get a point in the standing. So we'll see where it goes from here, but certainly looks like now Dallas, with 2 more points, will secure home ice in round 1.
What do you make of the power play, those 3 power play goals? Obviously, key to at least keeping them ahead and well on the scoreboard, but not enough at the end. But what do you make of the power play and how they are clicking at this time of the year?
Well, it's a great sign, Halvey. It really is. This year's power play is going to, I don't really think they could get out of this mold, but break the franchise record for a single season, which they set a couple years back, is right now they're about 25%. The Wild never had a power play in franchise history finish a year that high. So even with minimal success, the next 3 games, the man advantage, they should, set that franchise record. So it's been pretty consistent. I mean, you remember the start of the year, they were breaking records and scoring a ton of power play goals. I think they finished with 5 in the season series against the Stars, 2 in the first game, 3 in this last one. So that'll be something to watch when we get to the playoffs. But I just like the way, I asked John Hines about it after the game, what made it so effective. And a lot of times it's kind of the same thing with this group, and it's been this way for years. When they're hungry on pucks, when they're retrieving pucks, getting second chances, getting pucks to the net, it's what makes a lot of power plays so successful. So good to see heading down the stretch that the power play is in some type of funk, and actually, if anything, it's trending in the right direction.
I'll tell you, Joe, my biggest takeaway from that game, and this is how I felt going into it, and this is how I feel coming out of it and going into the best-of-7 series starting next weekend in Dallas. There's not a lot separating these two teams. I think the firepower is pretty similar. The blue lines, there's not a lot of difference there. The big question mark is going to be in goal. And by the way, as much as we don't like what Philip Gustafsson did in that game, Jake Ottinger, their all-star stud, gave up 4 goals as well. So, I mean, there's not a lot of difference between the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars of 2026 in my mind. What did you take away?
Yeah, agreed. The season series has been awfully close. Each team won 5-2 with 2 empty netters. We had an overtime game, and then we had a 1-goal game in Dallas the other night. So, it's been pretty darn even. The Wild have heavily outshot the Stars in the 4-game season series, but as I talked about in the broadcast the other night, that's kind of been Dallas's story all year. They're near the bottom of the league in shots per game. Now, with that said, you look at the entire NHL, the whole league is separated by like a handful of shots per game. But it's the one area where Dallas isn't like top 3, top 5 in the league is shots per game. They don't give up a whole lot, but they don't tend to fire a whole lot. They've got a high shooting percentage. We saw the other night they scored 5 on 20. So they don't need a whole lot with the quality players they have up front. And that was without Rope Hintz, who, when healthy, is one of their best forwards. It's not even in question. So, there's not a lot of difference between these two teams. I agree with you that each team's got their superstar forwards that you're going to rely on. Each team's had a great power play this year. Defensively, you've got points from the blue line. You've got steady, big bodies on the blue line for each team. It's going to be the depth players have stepped up at times for both these groups. Look, they're separated by 4 points all year for a reason. It's going to be a fun matchup. Goaltending is going to be a huge storyline into it. For me, I agree with what you said, Kevin. Like, it was important for me to see the Wild go to Dallas the other night and score a few on Ottinger. Had they lost that game 3-1 and Ottinger stopped 34 of 35, you might be going, boy, this is going to be. But they've beaten him this year. And Ottinger's numbers, again, he doesn't face a lot of shots, and maybe that's harder on him. But his save percentage is under 90% for the first time in his career. Across the NHL, there's a lot of guys having those types of years. So I don't know if you just say, all right, Ottinger's Ottinger, and this year for goalies it's just been tough across the board, or is he more beatable than in years past? And, anything can happen in a playoff run, a playoff series. He could get hot instantly and lock it down. We've seen him lead the Stars to the Western Conference Final before, so I'm not saying he is really beatable and you can get him and you can win this series by shelling Jake Ottinger, but I do wonder if he's not as good as he has been, or he's not having as good of a year as he has in his great career so far, and maybe this is a year where you can, try to win some of these games 4-3, as opposed to trying to grind out 2-1 games in this series.
I can't think of another year where you've had this long of a stretch where you knew who you were going to play in the playoffs. I mean, we've been talking about Wild Stars for literally months now. What does that familiarity bring to this series coming up next week? What is that knowledge? I mean, how do you, I guess, get ready for something that you've been getting ready for like I said, a period of months? Yeah,
the NHL had it the other day, Howie. It was 118 straight days that these two teams have either been in second or in third And since late February, it's been, I think, Stars second, Wild third. So, yeah, could have penciled this thing in a while ago. The betting line would have been probably minus, 500 that these two teams are going to meet for this long. So it is odd. It feels like both teams have been trying to just get through the regular season at times, knowing that this is what's coming. I think these last few games will be important for both teams, the Wild and the Stars. Maybe they rest some guys. Maybe they try new line combinations like the Wild have been doing for a few weeks now. But it's about health. Like, who's going to be healthy? Who's going to be feeling best about their game? It's definitely a unique situation. You don't see this a lot where these two teams have just been kind of destined to play each other, and this is what we're going to get in just over a week's time. So, again, health for me will be important. If it is Philip Gustafson starting game one, what do his last couple of starts look like? Can he find his game a little bit? And then the coaching adjustments. When game one comes around, between game 1 and 2, as this series, we think it'll be a long one, moves along, which coach will make the adjustment that's going to put its team over the top? I go back to last year. The Wild had a very good chance and probably should have won that series against Vegas. And I feel in large part they gave themselves a chance in that series because they changed some things that they had done in the regular season against the Golden Knights to how they played them in the playoffs, and I think it gave Vegas fits. So I like John Hines behind the bench. I like the staff they've got. I don't know what those adjustments or tweaks might be to the structure, but is there a little wrinkle you can throw at a team to maybe put them on their heels a little bit at different parts of the series or within a game in a series? And can that give you an advantage? That'll be something I'll be looking for.
All right, so give us a preview for today. The Wild really don't have much to play for at this point. Bottom line, wrap everyone up in cellophane, make them healthy, and get them through the regular season. The Predators, on the other hand, playing for their playoff lives. They fell the other night to the Mammoth and now have fallen out of the top 8 in the chase for that final wild card spot in the Western Conference. I expect that Andrew Brunette, Darby Hendrickson, and the rest of them, man, they're going to have them fired up today in front of their home crowd there at Bridgestone Arena.
Yeah, so the Preds are at 84 points, 3 games left. The Kings are at 85 with 4 games left. So they got a point to make up for the second wild card, and they have a game more played already, right? The Kings have a game in hand. So that's what's at stake for Nashville. They've been a better home team than a road team. They're coming off a long road trip. They have their final 3 games at home. They have 20 wins on home ice this year. The Wild came into this building right before the Olympic break, and Matt Boldy had the first period hat trick, and then Spurgeon had to win it in overtime because the Wild kind of coughed up a lead there. So I think this is going to be a game where there's a lot of goals scored. I think they're going to trade chances, and for me, it'll be just, again, get out of the game healthy. Can you find a way to manufacture the intensity that the Preds are going to bring? Can the Wild manufacture that? Can they find a way to gear it up for a game that, again, maybe doesn't have a whole lot of meaning for them, knowing, that pretty much they're going to be the 3 seed and go to Dallas for game 1. So get out of this thing healthy. If Gus is in net, can he bounce back? And then will there be lineup changes? Will Nico Sturm, who's been scratched the last handful of games, get in? Will Robbie Fabry get into a game down here at some point on this road trip that wraps up in St. Louis Monday? And then defensively, Damon Hunt's been on ice for a while, right? Like, does he get a game? Does Viking Gustafson Nyberg get a game? The new youngster they signed from UConn. So I think you'll see some of that. I don't know if it'll be today, but either St. Louis or Anaheim, the last 2 games of the year, road and home, I think you'll see a couple different guys get in, give some guys a breather, and again, just try to get everybody's game rounded in the best form possible in time for game 1.
Have you seen Viking Gustafson Nyberg in person yet? 6'6", 200 some pounds. Yeah. Oh my God,
dude, he is a large human being. Every time I see Michael McCarron, I'm still stunned at how big he is.
Yeah, agreed.
I think Gustafson Nyberg's even like a little bit like wider of a human. He's 6'6" as well, but he, for being such a young kid, he is a big boy, and I think it'll be fun to watch. You got a couple games in Iowa, obviously in the American League. I don't know where he slots ultimately in the organization heading into next year, but it'll be fun to watch a big guy like that try to develop in front of our eyes and see if he can become a full-time NHLer.
All right, Joe, take care of Tom Reed today. We'll listen for your voice around 3:45, and very much looking forward to game number 80 of 82.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
There you go, the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Wild, Joe O'Donnell. Yeah, pregame at 3:45, puck drop at 4:08 from Bridgestone Arena. Wild taking on the Nashville Predators. When that concludes, we'll bring you what's left of the national championship game later on this evening as well. Denver taking on Wisconsin. A guy that's going to call the action for Westwood One is Pat Micheletti. On the other side of break, we'll check in with him again from Las Vegas to not only talk about the national championship game, but we got to get into some news and notes for the Golden Gopher hockey squad. I know a lot of you are waiting for that, so we'll do that next on Beyond the Pond.
This is Wild Captain Jared Spurgeon, and you're listening to Fallness and Micheletti on Beyond the Pond.
Fitzgerald to ice the game. Can't do it. Reed knocks it down, but there's only 5 seconds left. North Dakota has to hurry. Rickwood, one more chance. Over the net. Wisconsin moves on. Always dangerous. Fresh off the bench. Set wide by Jamison. John Anderson wants it. Kent Anderson is the hero for the Pioneers.
I'll tell you, Pat Micheletti, Zach Halverson, Brett Blakemore, as we begin hour 2 of Beyond the Pond, I'm always a guy that's going to lean towards radio, and I, for the life of me, could not find the radio calls of either of those 2 final calls from Vegas, whether it be Denver getting past Michigan in double overtime or Wisconsin doubling up North Dakota. Both calls not available on radio to my access, so I had to go with John Butchergrass and the group there at ESPN. They did a fine job, but I'm sure you guys did an even better job. Patrick, did you step on your play-by-play guy and his touchdown call?
Well, I'm gonna break some news. I did not do the first 2 games.
Oh, I thought you did. I thought you were out there.
I'm only doing the championship game, Kevin.
Well, good for you then. I didn't realize that. I thought you were out there, so you were doing all of them.
No, I was, just originally scheduled to do the championship game, and I'm happy to do it. That's for sure.
Well, then that explains why I wasn't able to find the call of you guys calling those games. Well, that's why it probably wasn't carried on our favorite station, and but hopefully at some point today, depending upon and I know you're a giving guy, that you'll probably shorten that post-game show. It would seem unlikely, but anything could happen.
I think you should save your voice for the playoffs, because I'm assuming, we're going to have a lot of that going on, right, during the playoffs. So I don't want you to overdo it.
I will do my best. That's my promise to you and the listening public, Chad Abbott, and anyone else with a pair of ears. I'll try to shorten it up today so we can get to the finale there of the national championship game, whether it be DU or Wisconsin hoisting the hardware. We want to be able to hear it in the Twin Cities metro area, so I'll try to do my part to shorten it up. Deal?
Okay, great.
All right, so that's coming up.
Mute TV, right?
Always hashtag Mute TV. That's definitely a thing, no matter what you're watching.
When I'm on TV, right?
Especially when you're on TV. Let's talk about your Golden Gophers. Big news earlier this week, and in a number of different ways, but we knew what was coming. Brett Larson was going to fill out his coaching staff. I assume you're happy and overjoyed with some of the additions and some of the guys that are coming back to that coaching staff.
Well, yeah, I mean, whenever you have a new coach, you have to give him the if you want to call it free rein to do what he wants. It's his program, and coaches come in and they have a comfort level with certain people, and you want to add good people, and so I think Brett accomplished that. I'm really going to miss Steve Miller. I'm sure someone is going to get him in a millisecond because he's a great coach, really good friend. Really knowledgeable, and you can only keep so many coaches and hire so many coaches, and unfortunately Steve won't be back. next season. But you look at Brett's staff, and you have the addition of Matt Cullen, Paul Martin becoming a full-time assistant. When you have guys like that have played in the National Hockey League for so many years and are so knowledgeable and are so smart, and I think that is, I think that was two really good hires. Bringing former Gopher Corey Leyland in, really smart hockey guy, and really good person. So I think Brett really, I think he did a terrific job in assembling the staff that he has.
What do you make of the Matt Cullen hire? What is Matt going to bring to the Gopher program, and what reaction did you get from his alma mater, the Husky fans, going, what the heck? Now we lose our head coach, and we've now lost Matt Cullen to the Gophers.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a tough one for the Husky fans. But you also have to take into account that two of his sons will be playing on the team next year, so he'll get to work and continue to develop them. And I think the relationship Brett and Matt have, goes back quite some time. And so you have a comfort level there. And what does Matt bring? Well, we know what he brings on the hockey side of things. Who wouldn't want to learn from a guy like that with the career that he had? So it's a win-win. And then secondly, when a young kid takes a look at the staff and sees a guy like Matt Cullen, would you not want to learn from a guy like that and a guy like Paul Martin? If you're a young defenseman, a guy who played 14 seasons in the National Hockey League. So, I just think from a credibility standpoint, it's something that any young kid, will want to look at and say, yeah, that's something I want to be a part of.
Those are some of the changes behind the bench. We know there's going to be a ton of changes on the ice, but a couple will stay the same. I think within the last 24 hours, it was announced both L.J. Mooney and Brody Ziemer will return to the ice next season. Mooney, a fourth-round pick by Montreal in 2025. Ziemer, a third-round pick by Buffalo in 2024. We know there's going to be a ton of changes on the ice, Patrick, but good to see those two guys are coming back.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy keeping them. Now, I think in their hearts, in their love for playing here, you get pulled in a lot of different directions from a lot of different people, and you get told a lot of different things. And so there, in that sense, you start to worry about, are they going to leave? I know Penn State put a big push on for L.J. Mooney, and they were decimated in the portal and guys signing, and looking like McKenna's going to sign when he gets drafted this year. So Penn State needed a big splash, and they targeted L.J. Mooney, and thank God, he was able to make a decision that he was going to stay at Minnesota. And the same goes for Brody Ziemer. As good a season as Brody had last year, that things weren't great. And, obviously on the ice with the team. And so, listen, when a team has a down year like that, other teams are going to come looking for your best player. And so, I know Wisconsin and Michigan State and, other schools were hard in on them. And so, and then when you get agents involved, it's, in the day and age that we live in, that's a factor. And, but ultimately I think Brody made the best decision, not only for now, but even for the future. If he has another season, which I think he'll have a better season than he did last year, I think he can own the campus, and so and that will carry forward in his life when he's done after hockey. His name is going to be right up there with the Brontons and the Masiches and the Nannies and the you name it. And so I think ultimately he'll look back and say, "Yep, that was a good decision I made."
Love seeing that loyalty. And speaking of players returning to their team, we found out last night after Max Plant for Duluth won the Hobey Baker Award that he will be the first player since Ryan Duncan in 2007 to return to school. He's going back to play for the Bulldogs following his Hobey Baker Award win. What do you think of Max Plant's decision to come back? What does that mean for college hockey as a whole? And also, shout out to the Hermantown Hawks. Just got this tweet, Will Peterson pointing out that Hermantown is now the first high school ever to produce multiple Hobey Baker Award winners. Drew LeBlanc for St. Cloud State did it in 2012, 2013. But heck of a hockey program up there in Hermantown.
Unbelievable. And UMD has now had 7 Hobey Baker winners. It's just, I don't even know how to explain it. The first being Tom Curvis, rest in peace, TK. But he was the first that went on to Bill Watson, and you can probably name them all, Alvy. I've lost track, but Plant reminds me a little bit of of Brock Faber in terms of coming back for another year. Yes, he could sign. Yes, there's a good chance that, he would make the Detroit Red Wings next season. But you know what? He decided to come back. UMD's going to have a hell of a team next year and have a great chance at, competing for a national championship. And then, thirdly, he gets a chance to play with not one of his brothers, but 2 of them. His youngest brother, who he's never played with, is going to be coming in last year. And, I talked to Scott Sandlin before it was even announced. He said, Mick, I'm going to play them all in the same line. And I think that is just wonderful for college hockey. And I don't think he'll regret coming back. Like every young kid, there's still things to work on and get stronger and faster and, more mature, another year of maturity. And that's why I look at it kind of like in the same breath of Brock Faber. He could have jumped early, probably could have made it. But I don't think he would have been the same player that he is today if he hadn't come back for that extra year. And so I think he made a really, really good decision.
The Wild also made a couple of moves earlier this week on the college level. We knew they were going to sign Michigan State center Charlie Stramel, of course, a Wild prospect, a Wild draft pick, I believe first round 2023. But they also went and grabbed UConn college free agent defenseman Viking Gustafsson Nyberg. I know you've seen Stramel, and I know you're very high on his potential. I didn't know anything about Viking Gustafsson Nyberg before the Wild signed him, and I'm intrigued by a lot of things about this kid. Not only his name, but Patrick, he's 6'6", 225 pounds, I think. And we just talked to Joe a little bit about him. What do you know about Viking Gustafsson Nyberg?
Well, I only saw him once, and he stood out.
I bet.
And that's not – and he's still. He's a month. He's huge. But what stood out about me, he's got a little edge to his game. And like I said, only saw him in one game in the regional. But when you got a guy like that in the National Hockey League, who has a little bite to his game. I think, maybe he's a project. And obviously, he's still growing into his body and all of that, type of stuff. But, he's a project certainly worth taking a chance on. And I'm kind of anxious to see him play at the next level.
What are you looking for here in the next few the last few regular season games for the Wild? What are you looking to learn from these games? And obviously, there's going to be a lot of talk, and there should be a lot of talk for next Saturday. But still, 3 more regular season games. What do you look to see here?
Well, it's really tricky, Zach, don't you think? In the sense that you want to be playing. You want to feel good about your game heading into the playoffs. You never want to go in on a down note. And so there's that part of it. And then there's a second part of it is how much do I play, Kaprizov, Boldy, some of the top end guys, for fear of guys getting injured. And so, because if you're not healthy who's healthy going into the playoffs at this time of the year, right? You're always a little dinged up. So how much do you rest the guys and how much do you really, try to get your full lineup there and really prepare and be ready for game one. So I think that's a little tricky. So I think, for me, I kind of go on the 50-50 rule here in terms of, okay, let's get a game in of how we're going to look. I don't know what game that will be. And then, maybe pull back a little bit on some of the minutes that some of the guys are playing and be ready for game one.
All right, last thing. Of course, you are in Vegas. You'll be on the call tonight for Westwood 1, DU against Wisconsin. Puck drops about 4:30 here in the Central Time Zone. You got the, I think you called it the 11-7 game with Denver.
No. What?
The 11-7 series? What'd you call it?
The 7-Eleven.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Kevin.
Sorry. The 7-Eleven game.
The little convenience store.
Yeah, I got you. Now it makes sense.
Okay.
Badgers looking for their 7th, Pioneers looking for their 11th.
I'm going to buy you a Slurpee.
Well, there you go. I like it.
Big gulp.
Oh, I'm sorry, a big gulp. Look at Zach. You're right on it.
Oh, I know my 7-Eleven.
So I know you won't pick a winner, but what are you expecting tonight as these two teams go head-to-head? I'm excited for it. I hope to keep an eye on it while the Wild take on the Predators.
Well, both teams are going to go in. You have nerves going into this game, so I think you can never strike first and kind of get that lead. And I say that because both teams defend so well. And so I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game. It's not going to be your up and down type of game. These teams don't play like that. And so I think that first goal is going to be really, really key. And, which team is going to be a little bit more nervous to start the game. So I think whoever gets that first goal is going to have control of the game and can dictate how the game is going to be played. So, it should be a really good hockey game today.
Looking forward to it, and we look forward to hearing you on the call eventually. After the post game is done,
eventually,
we'll make way for you and your friends.
I completely understand, and let's get a win in Nashville today.
You bet. We'll do our part. Patrick, thank you very much. Good luck.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Pat Micheletti, the host of Beyond the Pond. He's busy right now. He's got Westwood 1 duties tonight at T-Mobile Arena. Again, it is the Badgers against the Pioneers. Puck drops at 4:30 in that one. Wild taking on the Predators. Pregame at 3:45. Puck drops at 4 o'clock on that one. We'll squeeze in a break, and then when we continue, we got a little bit of time here. We'll do a quick segment, and then we got to make room for Jason King, Wild assistant coach, to get us ready for the Wild and Predators. We'll set the stage for that as we roll forward on Beyond the Pond.
This is Wild head coach John Hines, and you're listening to Beyond the Pond with Fallness and Micheletti on KFAN.
Kemp's Black Pepper Cottage Cheese.
Well, this is the tradition on KFAN, horrible clock management. Common does it. Barrero does it. I guess we're doing it here on Beyond the Pond as well. Quick segment here because we want to be on time for Jason King, assistant coach for the Minnesota Wild. He's out there in Nashville. No morning skate today, I don't think. Maybe a couple of guys are out there, including Viking Gustafsson Nyberg, but maybe he can give us an update on what the thought process is going into today's affair in Nashville. Wild pretty much locked into the 3rd spot in the Central Division. Home ice advantage probably has gone the way of the Dallas Stars at this point, but you still got 3 games games left to play. How do you balance it? Wanting to keep everyone healthy, but also wanting to keep pushing forward. We've been talking a lot with Pat Micheletti over the first hour and a half there, Halvey, about his trip to Las Vegas. I know you were just there, which is saying something because you spend more time there than you probably do in White Bear Lake. What was your trip like to Vegas? How much do you love that city? And tell me more about that out-of-body experience you had at the Sphere.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. By the way, it was great to see the Frozen 4 on full display. They got those gigantic LED screens in the Strip, and they were promoting the heck out of it last weekend, and certainly increased the FOMO for this weekend. But yeah, Sphere, if you like whatever artist you want to see there, it's an amazing experience, out-of-body experience, I would say. And,
you called it an out-of-body experience, and you spent 90 minutes with your jaw on the floor.
It was
Who'd you see?
The visuals. Nobody's going to know this, but our EDM artist named Millennium is who I saw. But, there's plenty of artists you might be more familiar with, like the Ches, like the Backstreet Boys. I know Grateful Dead played there. So there's something for everybody down there. All I can say is I cannot recommend it enough. It is the greatest entertainment venue in the world, bar none. There's nothing that can come close to it. The visuals, the sound is amazing. I know the NHL draft was there a couple of years ago, got great reviews. I'd love to see them maybe try to play a game in there. I know there's been talk of having a basketball or a hockey game down there at some point. It's a 20,000 seat venue. Well, it's 18,000, but they can fit 20, I think, for concerts with the open floor. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Cannot recommend it enough. And I doubt that we'll have to wait too long for another Frozen 4 to return. I don't know if we're going to get the dream scenario that Pat has put forward, but I have a feeling they're going to go back to Vegas very, very quick. And when they do, if you can make your way down there and you can book your flights before all the Fighting Hawk faithful get to those and drive the flight prices up, get down there and enjoy it, because it is a perfect city for something like this. I will say it's funny waking up on Friday morning for the power trip and still seeing people partying and drinking and having a great time after the Thursday night games out there. It's a whole different world out there, and it's a wonderful place. And I hope to see the Frozen 4 back, and I hope to have some redemption as well and finally get down there and see it myself.
I'd go out on a limb and say Pat Micheletti is not enjoying Vegas the way you would
No.
or do anytime you're out there, but he's having a good time waiting for the drop of the puck for the Frozen 4. We're waiting for the Wild and Predators coming up. 3:45 pregame, puck drops just after 4 o'clock. When we continue, we'll go to Bridgestone Arena and Smashville and check in with one of the Wild assistant coaches, Jason King, next on The Fan. Home stretch for today's edition of Beyond the Pond. Kevin Fallness, Zach Halverson, Brett Blakemore in studio with you as we get ready for the Wild and Predators coming up later on today at Bridgestone Arena out there in Nashville as we speak. Wild assistant coach Jason King. Jason, thanks for joining us on Beyond the Pond. Thanks for your patience as well, because we're a couple minutes late, but always great to hear your voice. How's Nashville treating you this day?
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Oh, Nashville's great. Beautiful day. Getting to that playoff time of the season is exciting. But, thanks for having me on.
You bet. Before we talk about today, let's go back to Thursday. The Wild end up going toe-to-toe with a team they're going to face off in about a week in the first round of the playoffs. It ended up being a 5-4 loss. But what did you take away from that one? We've been talking about it all day on the show. Didn't feel like there was a lot separating these two teams. That's going to be one hell of a series.
Yeah, we're excited for it. And you know what? The timing of that game was good for both sides. It was a good feel prep type of game. We know it's going to be an intense, physical, emotional series. But it was also a good opportunity for us to see and dial in on some areas that we know that, maybe we can expose them in. Definitely some systematic things that we can really dial in. But the timing of that game was great. We thought we actually played a very strong game. Maybe didn't capitalize on a couple opportunities that we had. But I think at the end of the day, we felt opportunity-wise that we definitely should have won that game.
From a coaching perspective, does it make it easier on you guys to basically know your first-round playoff opponent for basically half a year, going back to like November?
Yeah, it definitely helps from a prep perspective. You know what? There's definitely, even down the stretch of the last 5-10 games, there's definitely some areas like I talked about systematically that we can really start to focus in, even though, we're not playing, say, Dallas in those games, but there's definitely areas that we can work on when the evidence is that, these things are going to be important once we obviously get to game one in the playoffs. So, it has been strange that we've known we were going to play these guys for a very long time potentially. But I think it's also good for the guys that they start to wrap their heads around early.
I know you guys have your hands in a number of different hats, whether it's you, Cappy, Dwyer, whatever. But one of your responsibilities is the power play, which seems to be heating up, and obviously was proficient there on Thursday in Dallas. 3 for 5 with the extra man. At one point, Kaprizov and Boldy and Zuccarello combined for the first 2 power play goals to give you guys the 3-1 lead. What do you like about the man advantage for your team heading into the final 3 games of the regular season and into that series against Dallas?
Yeah, well, I think our team in general, but definitely the power play as well. It's the whole season is kind of building up to what our options are against certain types of kills. And, last game, boys did a great job executing a lot of the plays that we tried to expose them in from how they kill. So, every game on the penalty kill side of it, from our power play side of it, you're trying to expose 1 or 2 options. And again, the timing of that game was great because we were able to work some of those options and they worked out for us. But again, you obviously don't want to always tip your hat and show what you're trying to do, but also you want to see if those options do work. And we definitely still have a few tricks up our sleeves, hopefully here once we get into the playoff series. But yeah, the guys executed the plays that were there. And as always on the power play, it's trying to be as consistent as possible and making sure you're generating those chances when the options are there.
We saw how valuable that 4-day rest period a couple weeks ago was in the end of the regular season. It looks like next week you'll have a similar break here to rest up before the playoffs. How important is rest this time of year before these big games coming up next week?
Yeah, it's huge. The last couple of seasons, coming right down the stretch to the last games, every game was like a game 7 where they were must wins, and that wears on guys. By the time if you get into the playoffs, by the time you're ramped up, but sometimes it actually physically pays its toll. So. Credit to the guys. We've had a solid season. We put ourselves in a situation where now we come down the stretch, and if guys do need some rest, we can give it to them. But also we want to stay on top of them to make sure that our game is still dialed tight and that guys' games individually are ready to go come game 1. But yeah, it's hats off to our guys that there's it's the reason why we're in the situation that we are, which is great.
I know your focus is more on the forwards, but there's a guy that was added about halfway into the season in defenseman Quinn Hughes that I know you had a prior relationship with in your prior life with the Vancouver Canucks. Now you're both here in Minnesota. I don't think he's changed much since his time in Vancouver, but I certainly didn't watch him as closely with the Canucks as I have here with the Minnesota Wild. Same old Quinn Hughes that you saw in Vancouver, more the same here in Minnesota, or has his game even evolved more over that time since you saw him out there compared to here?
Yeah, well, Hughes and I, we go back a ways. We got a great relationship, and his game definitely has evolved even more. He's always been the elite player, but definitely you see a more maturity in his game, and not even just the understanding of the game. 5-on-5 power play, what his options are, what his reads are, the dynamic player that he is. I was as all of us were pretty excited once we got that addition, because we know what he can bring to our group, and the high-end talent guys that we have up front, he only complements their game. And, you can see how much our offensive side has exploded since we got him. But on the power play side of it, he's one of the best. And, when you have a guy up top that can run the blue line like he does, he's obviously has a dangerous shot, but his vision alone to be able to actually set up plays to some of our high-end skill up front, it's definitely a great addition for us, in general, but definitely on the power play.
Obviously, Quinn has gotten a lot of the headlines, and rightfully so, but there's been some other additions to this team throughout the season. Who has impressed you? What impacts have the newer guys made in this stretch run here?
Well, you know what? I think every move that we made, the guys we brought in have had an impact and will have an impact for us. You know, you can see what Billy and our management group has tried to do. We have definitely added some physicality with McCarron and Foligno, some speed with Brink and skill, which we need as well on top of that. And, you know, even some of our guys like Fabry, some depth. And, you know, we actually have a great mix of skill, speed, physicality, which we know we're going to need in the playoffs. And it's the way our team is built. You know, we can score, we can produce, but at the end of the day, we got to be able to check, and we have to have that physical element to our game. Because, you know, once we get in the playoffs, it's a grind. And, you know what, the team that comes out wearing the other team down the most usually comes out on top. So, you know, we feel good. We feel good about our group and basically the whole combination of everything that we have. You know, now we just got to make sure that we go out there and get the job done on the ice. I'll
tell you, Jason, watching the depth scoring and how it's continued to evolve over the course of this season, one of the wild cards coming in was Vladimir Tarasenko. In my mind, it was a gamble worth taking for Bill Guerin. He goes out and he signs him after a down year in Detroit. But, man, he seems rejuvenated in this Wild uniform. And when you talk about a guy who's done it on the highest level in the playoffs, what a nice wild card that is to have in your back pocket as a guy that I'm guessing is going to be a factor in this series.
Yeah, you know what, Vladdy, he's you know, his history and his resume in this league, you know, speaks for itself. You know, I think the last couple of years probably haven't gone the way that he would like them to go. But I think from our side of it, on the coaching side of it, was trying to give him the best opportunity where he can play his game. And, you know, we wanted to try to give him every opportunity we can, whether that's 5-on-5, power play, whatever it is, because he's a goal scorer. And you put him in those situations and put him in the areas where he can produce, he's going to do it. So he's been a great fit for us. You know what? He's a veteran presence. He's won. And you know what? And good on him. He's put the work in. He's been dedicated. He's been very coachable on our side of it. You know, it's a guy that's, you know, he's later in his career, and after having a couple of years that I'm sure he'd like to have better, we wanted to make sure that we could get him back and give him the opportunities to help our group. And he's had an outstanding season so far for us.
It's been an outstanding season, you mentioned, and so much has happened, and it's crazy to be sitting here. You know, if you were to go back some of those days in October and told your staff, anybody, any Wild fan, that the Wild would be sitting here the final weekend of the regular season with 102 points, and after all that has happened, all that has occurred, do you guys, you know, what have you learned from this team through the trials, the tribulations, through the great moments as well, through those long winning streaks? What have you learned, and how is that going to factor into your postseason plans?
Yeah, you know, we all know we didn't get off to the start that we wanted. You know, you want to get out of the gates early, try and, you know, bank some of those points so you're not chasing the 8-ball. But you know what? We corrected some things in our game. The guys really dialed in to what it takes, for what our group takes to win. And you know what? We put a great stretch together after that rough start that put us in this situation. It's a long year. Like we know, guys, that it's 82 games. You're going to have stretches of highs. You're going to have stretches of lows. You know, you can't get too low when you go through those starts like that. But when the highs are there, making sure the guys stay consistent as possible, and that's just playing our brand of hockey, game in, game out. And you know, you do, me do that. We do come out on the right side at the end of the day. But again, you know what? It's a great group that has bought into what it takes to winning. We got a lot of veteran guys that want to win and know what it takes to win, and some young guys that are definitely learning from those veteran guys. But it's exciting. You know what? We love the group. The group is, you know what? They're an unbelievable character group. Awesome to coach. And you know, we're excited to get into the playoffs here and see what we can do.
All right, before you do that, last question here. Wild assistant coach Jason King, you guys are in Nashville today and pretty well locked into the third spot in the Central Division. It isn't quite as relaxed of an atmosphere for the Nashville Predators. They're fighting for their playoff lives. What are you expecting at Bridgestone Arena, as I'm sure Andrew Brunette and company are going to throw everything at the board, trying to get inside the head of the Minnesota Wild here in the third to last game of the regular season?
Yeah, it's going to be a hard-fought game today. You know, as I mentioned, you know, us in the previous years getting down the stretch where every single game matters. This is like a game 7 for them. So the urgency on their side, we know is going to be there. So it's going to be a good challenge for us. You know what? The thing is, even though we know where we sit, it's still about, growing our game and making sure that that aspect of our game or the areas of our game are still dialed. So it's still, every game is important. There's certain areas of your game, every game that's important, and we know they're going to be coming. We got to be ready for that response.
Jason, thanks for doing this on a game day. Good luck this afternoon, and good luck in the playoffs for sure.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks again for having me.
You bet. Wild assistant coach Jason King. Wild taking on the Predators today. Pregame at 3:45. Puck drops just after 4 o'clock. John Hines will address the media about 2:40 this afternoon, and that's when I think we'll get a better idea of what's going to happen to the actual lineup. Will guys get an opportunity to sit? You got Nico Sturm waiting in the wings. Damon Hunt hasn't played in what probably seems like forever. Who do they go with in goal? I'd be surprised if it isn't Jesper Wallstedt this afternoon, even though Joe, it kind of sounded like he thought it would be Philip Gustafsson. But regardless, the biggest key now, Halvey, Brett Blakemore, stay healthy. Get through these final 3 games. You wince every time you see something happen on the ice. Last game, Danilo Yurov left the ice at one point, ended up coming back. Jules Eric's took a puck right underneath his eyeball and ended up putting on a bubble and ended up coming back. But every time something like this happens, I mean, there's going to be block shots. There's guys that are going to go down with bumps and bruises. But that's the biggest key for this team, in my mind, getting through these last 3 regular season games healthy, because the last thing you want to do is go into the playoffs limping, bruised, and beaten.
Can we get bubbles on the rest of the players, too?
It's everybody. Yeah.
Everybody bubbled up. Everybody neck guard up. Everybody just, you know what? I know you want to block the shot. I get it. You're a hockey player. It's in your blood, literally. But I would like for your blood to stay in your body, and I would like for them to just take it easy. The rest of the way, and I don't know where you guys. It literally is going to be. I'm going to watch, and I'm going to mute TV, and I'm going to listen. So. Yep. But it is, especially now. Yesterday, the Thursday night game was fun to watch because there was still stuff on the line, and it was, you're still wincing, but you're wincing a little bit less because hey, you gotta put all you can out there. But now with very little on the line here now, it's going to be tough to watch because it is going to be constant, just any collision. Just there's nothing on the line here. Let's just cruise here. Give the points to Nashville. And I know that's not a good mentality to have, and I know they can't have that mentality to have it. Not. But from a fan perspective, I think you can have that. You can have that luxury of just saying, let's go.
Brett Blakemore, have either of you ever seen a game at Bridgestone Arena?
No.
I tell you, now, and I've said this many times, I haven't done a ton of games across the National Hockey League. I've done a bunch of them in the Central Division and the Western Conference. And one of my favorite locations, I've never watched a game there as a fan. I've done a couple of games at Bridgestone Arena. And I'll tell you what, that might be the go-to destination for a visiting fan, especially if you're a Wild fan, because they do travel pretty well around, especially the Central Division. That's a good spot. And if you want to go watch a game with a nice atmosphere, especially when they're playing well, Nashville's a go-to place in my mind.
So what you're saying is you like it, you love it,
I want
and
some
you want
more
some
of it.
more of it. I understand.
But maybe I'm speaking to the wrong 2 people here because I don't think you guys are country music fans. I dig the country music vibe. I like the Tim McGraw when they score a goal.
I dabble.
It's
I was at U.S. Bank Stadium last night.
And
Were you really?
I was. Yeah.
I heard it wasn't good.
It was really good.
Morgan Wallen, right?
Well, Morgan Wallen is kind of a sad guy to begin with. So if you're expecting big energy, he came. But I thought he did bring big energy.
To connect the two, you sure as hell don't want to see Morgan Wallen in Nashville. And if you do, watch out from above because it might be a chair heading your way. I think I would love to see just because I think the Wild have adopted some of those ideas that Nashville has. They've got the rink rock going. Having a live band, having live music is awesome. Yep. And so I very much praise whoever was responsible at the Wild for bringing those bands in because it is awesome having that live music feel. But Nashville does it better than anybody else, and that definitely is the top of the bucket list for me from a visiting fan perspective.
Great sports viewing day. Great job on the radio as well. Brett, I assume you're going to be watching the Masters?
I'll be watching the Masters into Wild into National Championship. We'll have it all.
Halvey, what do you got going on today that you can talk about on the radio?
Watching nonstop sports and fun and excitement and wincing probably a lot every time there's any sort of contact between a Wild player and a Predator.
It's going to be a blast. Great job, gentlemen. We'll look forward to doing it again here real soon.
Sounds good. Great
Thanks,
work.
Kevin.
That is Zach Halverson, along with Brett Blakemore. Pat Micheletti doing a great job, as always, out there in Vegas. He'll have the Frozen Four later on today, 4:30. It'll be DU taking on Wisconsin when that's done, or when the Wild are done, with their 3:45 pregame. Puck drops at 4 o'clock. We'll join that in progress. But hopefully it's after a Wild victory. Thanks for listening, and go Wild.
For an extraordinary advantage in sports, you need a game plan. For an extraordinary advantage everywhere else, all you need is Acrisure. With a high-tech human approach to insurance, cybersecurity, and more, Acrisure helps you take care of what you care about. That makes winning easy. See what Acrisure's extraordinary advantage can do for you at Acrisure.com.